ask you, knowing all the stuff that you do, spending your week, for you, when you label kind of those four key roles, those four buckets, what sticks out to you? How would you label those?
Yeah, so I know that you said four, but like a good preacher, I only have 3 points. And
Okay,
so,
we
no,
could do.
I have three an additional one. For me, I think a pastor, every pastor has to be able to do three things. They've got to be a shepherd, because you're the under shepherd of your flock. You've got to be a visionary. And I could go into that, so we could spend a lot of time in that, but then you've got to be a teacher as well. And so teaching people the word of God. And so now, if I were to add a fourth, the fourth that I really focus on is to be a connector of people. And that is done not in an office. I think a weakness of ministry many times is we have a lot of pastors that are office pastors. They're not pastors in their community. They're pastors of their community on Sundays, but on Tuesday, they're in their office all day. And so for me, I try to spend a lot of time in the community. I try to go and I study other places. I try to just be a connector of people, start conversations where I can. And so church planting kind of opens your eyes to these experiences and these types of leadership roles, right?
Yeah.
I didn't realize the amount of business knowledge that I would need to know entering church planting. I just had no clue, right? So I read more business books and leadership books than I did before. I just never thought that was applicable to me. I needed to know more about real estate. So I connect with real estate people in our chamber of commerce to make sure that we're in the know, because we're looking for a building and a land currently. So like I want to be in the know when it comes to that. And so when it comes to those four roles, it's this role of a shepherd where you're meeting with people consistently, you're discipling and developing. That is a process that never ends. You never arrive there. A visionary, honestly, in the church, I feel like we focus too much on this. Jesus had a vision, and his vision's pretty good, so I'm okay with leaning into his vision. If you're reaching people with the Great Commission, that's good enough for me. And so, but vision can be a lot of things when it comes down to that, where your local church is going. And then a teacher. I don't feel like you can spend enough time um, focusing on teaching the Word of God correctly and dividing the Word correctly. Um, not downloading things from the internet. Just focusing on what God is speaking to you and studying that out, being a good teacher. You know, uh, I do less of the things because I want to make sure the things that I'm supposed to do that I do them well. And then the fourth is obviously being a connector, just being in the community, being there, getting people to know you. I have a taco place locally that when I come in, I don't even have to tell them my order. They know what I'm ordering when I come in. They get it started for me. They know who I am. They know typically I come in with somebody, but I have a relationship that's established there.
Mhm.
And I'm going to win those people. It may take years, but I'm going to win those people. I'm a connector of people. That's what I'm supposed to do.
Idea of communicating the vision, sharing the vision comes across. Um, and I love what you said there, just about Jesus has a great vision. So for you though, because when we talked previously, you said you consider a big part to be that kind of that visioneering, that communicating that vision to the people that you're leading. For you, how does that, just to kind of jump back a little bit, how does that practically play out when you look at somebody where look across? Where are the places where you see there's purposeful intention being placed? Because sometimes I'll ask somebody, so how do you communicate that vision? And they're really they struggle to point out where they're actually doing it, where they're purposefully doing that. So when you look at your own practices, where do you see that playing out?
Yeah. So there's two things. Number one, there's got to be a system for it. Number two, it's got to be simple. Like we overcomplicate vision, and then we overcomplicate it and then don't communicate it through systems. And
Yeah.
so for us, we keep our vision very, very simple. It is very gospel focused, very community focused. But then we talk about it very often when it comes to every one of our staff meetings. Every one of our huddles, we're talking about a core value. Every one of our around the corner, they're like we're over communicating it where they go, man, again, we're talking about this again. That's probably about the time they're starting to get it. And
Yeah.
so we want to make sure there's a system for it. We want to make sure it's simple, just so people get it and they live it out.
Yeah, which I love what just happened there whenever we dug into that, because I think someone could even hear your original answer about, Jesus has a great one. And I never would have caught, like, hey, these people got a system behind it. There's a purpose for what they are, how they're communicating that. And I think that's an important part.
Yeah, and then it's touch points as well, right? Ministry is people focused. It's a people business. So you have to have the touch points of you can kind of feel how their spirit's going. If they're connected with the vision of where you're going and really honestly the vision that God has for them in their ministry, if you can kind of feel when somebody's off and you've got but you don't feel that if you're not connected with them. And that's people driven ministry. That's discipleship.
Through your week, you talked about, which I love how far that you're working ahead. And so you said Tuesday morning you're there 9 to 12. So somebody who listens think, oh my goodness, this guy spends 3 hours a week, 5 hours a week, preparing. It takes me 25. I mean, what are the other places where they're going to see you preparing, doing reading, as far as to be able to teach with, like you're saying, to really know the word, to come, really prepared and do a great job?
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. So, although most of my preparation is done on Tuesdays, with me prepping a few weeks out, I give myself margin where there's not this pressure that I have to get this message done within this time frame. So, like this week, this message has been completed for a few weeks. But what I did on Tuesday was I added a few illustrations and I took away a few things. Well, today and yesterday, I went through and I do read throughs on my messages and I just read it through. I'm going to read it. I'm going to see how it flows. And if there's things that I like, I'm going to add in things that I don't like. I'm going to take away. There's this constant, clipping and, trimming and adding to it and decorating and things like that. So although most of my prep is done on Tuesday, I am constant. It's a constant creative flow
Okay.
process where if I have 10 minutes, 15 minutes between a meeting, I'm not just going to sit here and scroll Facebook. I'm going to pull open my message. I'm going to read through the first half of it. And I'm going to go, all right, this feels good. This doesn't feel good. Oh, you know what? Hey, I read this yesterday and I'm going to put this in there. Or, hey, this message is getting too long. Let me just trim here and there. It's a constant ebb and flow where I have my main study time and then I have little pieces of study time that I fit in between meetings.
Yeah, which I mean, the nugget I'm taking away is, because you're ahead of the game, it gives you the freedom to not feel, which anybody who's preached feels that pressure of that Wednesday's coming, Thursday's coming, like, oh man, I got, a lot to do to get ready for Sunday.
Yeah, it's a margin thing for me, right? Our media team needs my message by Wednesday. Our worship team needs my message by Wednesday. They need all of this content. And so if I'm prepping it on a Tuesday, I feel that that pressure of making sure that I get that done on Tuesday if that's the only day that I have to do that. But if I have a few weeks out, I can go, all right, well, I got a good outline and I got some illustrations and I got kind of where I'm going. Next week I'll add some more and then the next week I add some more. But then that also, from a creative angle, it allows you to not get in a writer's block, right? If you have one general idea that you're going towards and you go, you know what, I've kind of stretched that as much as I can stretch it. Let me go to next week's message and start working on that one. And then I'll get two or three working at a time. And oh, you know what, I thought about this. And that also helps your series tie in together where one message is feeding off. It's one continuous story, not 4 or 5 individual messages. And that's what I try to pattern my preaching off of.
Wow. So that's good. So I have listed down shepherd, visionary, teacher, and then when you had to go to the fourth one, you went with connector, which I think is really cool one, especially when you can put some real weight behind it. If there's actual places where I'm connecting with, important people who need to play a key role in the ministry, or helping us help God get us where we need to go. So if you think this exercise could be helpful for you, and you're thinking about what are your 4 key roles, what you would think for a lead pastor, I've created a free guide, and you can find it in the notes below, that outlines our conversation and also can be used for you to do some reflection for yourself. What would I say? And I'll have some of the notes listed from our conversation and some spaces for you to work that out. And so whether you're doing it for yourself or you're thinking about it for someone else, or maybe you can go through it with a peer to say, hey, how do you do this? How do I do this? And kind of grow together. I hope it's a blessing to you, and you can find that in the description below.